Yeah. I was saying it's gonna be quieter at 28 or 29.
You can just keep it on. And all your stuff.
I didn't know anything about it. You know,
I'm looking at white suits. Musical too. Love it. You just want to wear it for women's suffrage next year. Wait, you're supposed to be the swimming meet, or that's not wrong. It's supposed to be yesterday. Drive your car. Sure. It's still not. It's not my fault. No, it is. You want me to sit with you? Speaking of,
Call to order the meeting of the Winter City Council on Tuesday, April 16th at 6:30. We have a roll call, please.
Yes. Councilmember Anderson?
Here.
Councilmember Lauren? Here. Councilmember Newman?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cowan?
Here.
And Mayor Biaggi?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Tavernier, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The approval of the agenda.
Mayor and Council, we're changes to the agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. We will go to council and staff comments. Councilmember Lauren.
I am pleased to report that on April 3rd, I met with the WRA board. On Thursday, April 4th, I attended the beautiful swearing-in ceremony of Fire Chief Fred Lopez, along with a few people that are here. I know David was there. On April 8th, I had a teleconference with the Sac Valley region of the League of California Cities. And in the evening, I had a meeting with the Hispanic Advisory Committee, and we voted to give $250 towards grad night. I've also had several other teleconferences with the Rural Working Group, Formation Committee, and we're going to present to the League of California Cities next week. Okay, I'm going to say I'm and I'm very nervous about it, but city manager's been kicking my butt on, you better do that. So I'm going to do it. Also, I was on a teleconference and City Manager John Donlevy participated and helped do some revising, so I'm really grateful for his work and time. On April 12th, I met with Chief Brad Lopez about working with fire volunteers. On April 15th, I met with City Manager John Donlevy over the contents of this agenda. I also had a conference with the Women's Caucus for the League of Cities, and today I met with the Winners Elder Day Steering Committee, along with Councilmember Pierre New, and I'm to remind him that he has an announcement. I also attended a webinar today on the state and assembly bills coming forth on housing and transit-oriented development. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me out there?
No.
Okay, this thing. Close as I can get it. Okay, attended the Iowa County Transportation District Board meeting Monday night on April 8th in Woodland. And then on April 15th, Monday at 1 p.m., executive Clean Air Quality Board meeting, Clean Air Funds Committee. Meeting allocated to clean air funds for recommendation to the board.
Thank you. Councilmember New.
Thank you. On Thursday, April 4th, I attended the State Dog Land Use and Natural Resources meeting. And as usual, we were talking about how to allocate the land or use it most wisely, and we're also concerned about meeting our green gas emissions standards. Then on Friday, the 12th, I attended an all-day SACOG planning retreat, and it was a very well done retreat. It has many things going. Spent most of our time again trying to figure out transportation and ways of making better use of what monies we have, and again, land allocation and how it can be best used for each jurisdiction. Today I met with city manager about our agenda this evening. At 10:30, I met with the LJJ Planning Committee, and we'd like you all to save June 1st for the 3rd annual Winners Elder Day celebration. The date, you heard the date, but you didn't hear the time because we don't know yet. But save the whole day. And when we have the time worked out, we'll let you know. But if you know of anyone who is 90 or older, we would like to honor them. So please let me know, or Marianne Boyer. I've got phone numbers here. Just let me know. I'll pass it on. Also, at 4 o'clock, there was the city-county 2x2 meeting, which we discussed several things, and one of them that brought the biggest crowd was planning for the north area. That's it.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Callen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. On the 4th, I attended the swearing in of Chief Lopez, and on the 7th, the Youth Day meeting. On the 8th, the mixer at Boobies. And on the 9th, the car show. And then on the 14th, another Youth Day meeting. And just so everybody knows, lunch with the high school Youth Day electeds is on the 24th at 1 p.m. here in the conference room. And after lunch with the kids, they're going to take a walk over to the Winners Museum that's featuring the history of Youth Day right now. And then, as Pierre mentioned, I was also at the 2x2 with the county today. Typically, we're lucky if we have 2 public members show up, and today we had 28, I believe. So, good meeting. And then yesterday, I met with the city manager to review tonight's agenda.
Thank you. On April 4th, I attended the Winners Fire Chief swearing in as well. On the 8th, the Chamber Mixer at Hoovies. On the 9th, the Classic Car Show. On the 12th, I also attended the Chamber Board meeting. And on the 15th, I met with the city manager to review tonight's agenda. Thank you to everyone for all your time on a lot of commitments. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move along to public comments. These are on any items right now and something that's not on tonight's agenda. I have 2 forms turned in for items that are not on the agenda. And first one is from Tina Loudon.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, council people.
Members.
Members. Hello, John and Ethan. A couple of weeks ago, we had a speed limit thing, electronic on Neiman Street, and it was wonderful because they weren't going down Neiman at 50 miles an hour. But it's been taken down, and now they're going down Neiman 50 miles an hour or sometimes faster. And this is 24/7. Just wanted to let you know. And also, Neiman Street, as you know, has been the thoroughfare for all the construction. It is deteriorating. There's a lot of potholes. There's a lot of really bad areas, and also the striping around Neiman and Railroad. You cannot see that, and so you have a lot of people going north on Railroad, and they take that turn really tight, and I'm surprised there hasn't been there hasn't been any accidents. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Abigail Vargas.
My name is Abigail Vargas. I live on 1012 Taft Court. I'm here to talk about the vacation home ordinance, and that I do not agree with its implementation. We purchased a home with an in-line unit, so our aging parents will be able to move with us sometime in the next 1 to 5 years. Until then, we plan to rent the unit through Airbnb, so we have the flexibility of our parents staying with us when visiting. This ordinance for us would be an unnecessary level of bureaucracy and a cost added to our decision. We are living on the property and do plan to monitor the situation closely. By profession, I am a business analyst with a heavy background in finance. I reviewed the planning commission's minutes from March 29th, and I do not feel, I was surprised to find that the ordinance would cover 14 rentals and 3 full house rentals, while Napa has over 300, and I find it difficult to justify taxpayer cost of the ordinance implementation and the support of it.
Thank you. That will be coming to a future agenda, I'm sure.
Okay.
It's through Planning Commission.
I've got, Ms. Vargas?
Yes.
Just, before you leave, if you can, this isn't fully done yet.
Okay.
So the planning commission is gonna, be addressing it, a little bit more, but if you can just leave an email or contact, for us, we'll put you on the distribution list, for when it, shows up in the planning commission, so you can come and talk to it.
Thank you.
I also have one here from John Tice.
Thank you, Mayor Biaggi, council members, everyone in the audience. Haven't been here in a long time, so pardon my stutter and shake a little bit. Public speaking always makes me nervous. I've read some stuff in the newspaper about a general plan refresh, and I really want to encourage you all to not do that. Do a real general plan update. This town is long overdue for it. And if you're going to think about increasing population 40%, you're going to have to do a new sewer master plan, water master plan, storm drain master plan, probably street circulation master plan, and housing master plan. I thought of some things that I think real winners people thought of that maybe you ought to consider too. Is that there's not enough affordable housing here for young people that want to live here, that have grown up here. And that's, I think, a real serious problem. There's homes right down the street from where I live on Canyon Drive and Valley Oak Drive. They're going for $500,000 on up. And I know I couldn't afford that right now. Working for city governments and state government now for over 35 plus years. So that's a tough nut to crack for young people. And affordable housing is needed in this town really bad. Because you just can't have all these people that have tons of money coming from everywhere else and think you're going to still have a nice town. A lot of people have grown up here and want to keep it that way. I encourage you to do that. And remind yourselves also that you're the bosses. Everyone else that works for the city works for you. You call the shots. Okay? So don't have it go the other way around. I think the lack of parking on the hotel is a joke. As I do as a traffic engineer working for the city of Stockton for a number of years in my first career part, that the roundabout's a joke too. It would have been better just to put a traffic signal at Morgan Street to regulate traffic through town. There's so many people, I drive this thing, I've been driving back and forth on this road for like 28 years since I moved here. And that is like the worst thing that you could have. People do not know how to navigate it, and it's way too narrow. Normal traffic signal circles have 2 lanes on it. One for the cars to like make the movements going around, and the other ones to enter and move their way around too. You only have one. And I really think you would have been better off having a traffic signal in Morgan Street. If you ever look at it again, maybe take that out, put the traffic signal on. I think you'd be much better off. I think the local fire department, police department are the best around here. The best city services we have here in town. And what pet peeve of mine right now is when I ride my bike around town and the bike lanes in front of the police department and fire department are all filled up with cars. So if you're going to have a bike lane there, then don't have people park there. If you want people to park there, take out the bike lane. Don't confuse people. Let's see. I think that's about it for now. I don't want to overwhelm. I'll get back to it. Some other things I want to talk about, but I don't want to overwhelm. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The other 2 that I have, I believe, are on agenda items from Kate Laddish and Eric Tavernier. Will come later. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on a non-agenda item tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. Consent calendar.
Mayor and Council, a couple of items. Item A are the minutes from the regular meeting of the City Council on April 2nd. Item B is an amplified sound permit. Sounds like they're going to take baptism parties to a new level. But anyway, amplified sound permit. And then item C is some recycled furniture, which we'll take from the one grant that we received from the state of California. And I think Carol Smith and the staff have gone through, and I think it's the furniture is going to go be placed over in the patio area behind the library. And that'll be a wonderful addition. And that's the consent calendar.
So I have a conflict with item B due to my proximity, so I won't be able to vote on item B. I believe, yes.
I do too.
Okay, so I think there's 3 council members who have corrections on the minutes. We can either go through them now and then we can vote, or we can move it to a discussion item.
I move to make it a discussion item.
Okay, so.
Second, I guess.
If
one person requests.
We'll move that to the last agenda item tonight. In case everybody wants to know what those corrections are, stick around. Okay, so, and I'll move for a motion for the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? None? Passes. Okay, we're going to move along to a presentation tonight from the Yolo County Office of Emergency Services.
Good evening, Mayor Biazzi, members of the council. I'm just gonna wait for my first day to get up, but I'm actually here to talk to you about a brand new evacuation planning effort. I'm gonna call it an effort because the actual plan is not done. I'm trying to be very clear with everybody on that. But in lieu of the past fire seasons, we want to make sure that we roll out a lot of the efforts that have gone into the plan, and we can still tweak. All of our plans from the Office of Emergency Services are published for 30-day public comment, so I want all the public to kind of just be at ease that they will have a chance to comment on the written plan, and we're always making changes to our planning efforts and things based on lessons learned. In fact, I am coming from an after-action report they were doing for an emergency flood fight that we just had outside of YOLO, and they already want 3 new things in the evacuation plan. So just rest assured on that. But we want to make sure that everybody understands what we're doing and give the public and yourselves a chance to answer any questions. So I'll just go through the intro first. And so we started this well over a year and a half ago. It's not necessarily in response to the campfire or the car fire or anything like that. We actually started it well after Orville. Just because there was a lot of confusion in what was being evacuated and why. Zone-based evacuation planning tends to be kind of a best practice in the emergency management industry, and you will have seen some zone-based type of evacuations throughout the state in the past fires. We're taking it a step further in YOLO, and we zoned the entire county. A lot of jurisdictions, only one city will be zoned, or only part of. If you look up in Butte, the town of Paradise was zoned, but then not the rest of the county was. So we now have 91 new evacuation zones, covers the entire YOLO County from border to border, includes all the cities. We actually went through and involved every fire and law professional throughout the county, so every fire chief. We have over 20 of them. The police chiefs, the sheriff, so that's why it took a year and a half to design 91 zones. So that just gives you a little bit of history on it in the executive summary as well. It kind of sets the stage for the fact that we did it with all of those professionals. So I just want to let everybody know that there are many, many brains that created this. They were all told, don't worry about the direction fire burns or the direction water flows. These zones have to be good for any hazard. It can't be, I want a set of zones for fire and I want a set of zones for flood. So sometimes when people look at a zone, they may say, well, why does it have 3 different routes? Well, it may have 3 different evacuation routes because sometimes fire does come from the west, and so we want some on the east and things of that nature. So as we move forward, we're rolling that out in 2019 in an outreach effort. We have 21 planned outreach events. We've already done 2 up in the Cape Hay Valley. We have 1 in Esparto tomorrow night, another 1 in Esparto for the end of the month. We're starting in the northwest of the county because that's our highest fire-prone area, and we want to outreach before fire season starts. We'll be ending at the end of the year down in Clarksburg, right before flood season. So we will hit everybody, hopefully somehow, somewhere. So when we go to these outreach meetings, we're going to be, of course, telling everybody about the evacuation zone program, but we're also bringing preparatory information, just general prep information. So for instance, the ones that we're doing here on the west side of the county, we're bringing fire prep information. We go over defensible space planning, how to actually prepare yourself, going to ready.gov, downloading some of the tools there to make self-preparedness plans, contact lists, things like that. And then we're also promoting sign up for the mass notification system that we've owned for 4 years and do use very frequently in this county. Some people know it as YOLO Alert, others know it by the software vendor's name, which is Everbridge. So we're taking all of that out with us as we go. One thing that we're also bringing out kind of to the western side of the county is information on Pacific Gas and Electric's new power safety shutoff program. This is something that's regulated by the California Public Utilities Commission. So a lot of people say, oh, PG&E's going to shut the power off. Actually, it's not their choice. The California Public Utilities Commission will make them do it. during certain events, and you can see some of those on the slide, either red flag warnings, low humidity, high wind events, and it's really designed to reduce the risk of fire in those high hazard areas. So we're trying to get everybody used to that. We have what they call Tier 3 in Yolo County. That's the red on the picture of Yolo County there. We only have Tier 2. And this year they will be extending that shutoff to what they call their transmission system. So when it's on the distribution side, sometimes some houses go out. When it's on the transmission side, it can affect a lot more and sometimes even travel outside the map boundaries that we display. So that'll be a new thing for us this year. So we're trying to get everybody prepped for that, especially in our unincorporated areas where they're highly reliant on power for, say, water service to pump water out of their well systems. So a new thing for us. Those are just some of the prep information we're taking. The main message of all of our meetings is the new Know Your Zone plan and the evacuation rollout. So what we've done, like I kind of said at the beginning, is we've divided the county up into 91 evacuation zones. We have a brand new app, evacuate.yolocounty.org. So if you go to that URL, you can actually put in your address. It'll tell you which zone you are in. It'll tell you the primary evacuation routes and everything for that zone. And we've also got it enabled for location services. So if you happen to be somewhere else in Yolo County and you use your phone, it'll even tell you where you're standing, provided you have cell service right there, of course. And that is just to help people start to get interested in the Know Your Zone program, know which zone their home is in, their child's school is in, maybe their parents' skilled nursing facility is in, so that they understand when and why we might evacuate. We're also taking, like I said, education out there. So these are just 3 of the pamphlets that are from ready.gov. We're taking all these materials in printed format as well. So the app isn't the only way to know your zone. At every single one of these meetings, we take these zone numbers that surround the area that we're in so people can come up and take one for a specific zone or maybe a couple for different zones that they're interested in. We are helping people who have trouble with computer signups on the mass notification system so they can give us their information manually and we will sign them up. That is something that's come out of some of our Aging Alliance and Aging Commission meetings recently, is that some of our systems, while they're great for emergency management, are a little arduous to navigate. So we try to help everybody at these meetings bring computers and things like that. We'll have all the printed materials, specifically the ones that we like to always have on hand are planning for those with disabilities and the planning for older Americans and the pets, because those are the ones that we tend to see struggle in evacuation type events. So we always want to help everybody prepare themselves for those kind of things. And then, of course, the alert and warning system. So what we're telling the public as we go out to meet with them is that the alert and warning system is the first and foremost way that we reach out, because we can do it in a split second. I can even launch it from my phone standing here. So it's not the end all be all. It's not the only way we reach out, but it's definitely the fastest way that we have right out of the gate. So we can launch that even while we're spinning up fire and law professionals or volunteers to help us go door to door and make sure people did get evacuated. So that's the main reason why we want everybody to sign up for it. Also, the 91 zones that are in the Know Your Zone app are pre-programmed into the mass notification system. So a fire or law professional can literally get on his or her radio and ask dispatch to release an evacuation notification, and the dispatcher need only go into the software, identify the zone number, load it up. It may have a couple blanks like I have in the screenshot there that's prompting the dispatcher to ask the public safety professional for a specific road, because there might be a couple that can come. But literally they fill in a couple of blanks and they hit a send button. The zone's already in there. How we want it to go is already in there. It's really designed for speed, because that is one of the things that we're finding in emergency management is the crux of large scale evacuations is how fast can we get it done in some instances. Now the Know Your Zone program does not preclude public safety professionals from ordering a smaller evacuation. We just did it the other night outside of Yolo for an emergency flood fight. It was not a full zone. It wasn't even a third of a zone. So public safety can still do it kind of the old school way. where they radio in and give a north, south, east, and west boundary, give the message to the dispatcher and all that stuff. The Know Your Zone program is really for very large scale events where we have to either evacuate somebody, which is kind of what it was designed for, but also if we have to send what we call shelter in place notifications where we need everybody to stay in one location for their own personal safety. So with that, that's really all I have for you guys, and so I'm willing to answer any questions that you have.
I just have a comment. I just wanted to thank you for such a detailed, thoughtful process, respecting the aging, respecting technology and its difficulties, and also thinking about how a family might have somebody in all 3 different zones, and being able to access that information is just really very polished, and I can't think of anything more thoughtful. Thank you.
Do you have the date set for the outreach meetings there, winners?
One went out on press release this afternoon, and I'm sorry.
May 8th and May 22nd.
Thank you.
Public safety
Where'd that voice
facility.
come from?
I don't know where I'm supposed to be unless I can look at my phone.
May 8th and
May 22nd,
22nd.
both at the EOC room at the public safety facility.
Thank you. So you still do, for people who don't have cell phones or computers, still do the 911 calls to their house?
Our mass notification system launches verbal phone calls. It'll launch TTY, TTD machines for the hearing impaired. It'll do text and email to any number of cellular numbers and email addresses that you load into the system.
There are still some people who don't have cell phones or computers. So.
Absolutely. We even have some in the KP Valley that don't have landlines.
Any other comments? Kate Ladish, did you have a comment on this? Thank you very much.
Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. And first of all, thank you so much to Dana Carey and YOLO OES for doing the planning for this. I really appreciate it. It is obviously deeply, crucially important. So I'm really delighted that YOLO County is thinking about this proactively. And at the February 26, 2019 Board of Supervisors meeting, when Dana presented about this, there was a specific item about planning for evacuation of people with disabilities and other barriers to evacuation, such as age. And I would also encourage to include people with economic barriers to evacuation in that. So I've just been concerned overall about the ability of seniors and people with disabilities and people without financial resources to evacuate, and some of the emergencies locally and in our area have highlighted some of that. So I serve on the In-Home Supportive Services Advisory Committee for YOLO County as an IHSS recipient or consumer from here in Winters. And then although my experience on the advisory committee kind of informs my thinking at the supervisors meeting and at this meeting, I'm just speaking for myself. I'm not speaking officially as a member of that. But I can say that there are 2,600 people in YOLO County who receive in-home supportive services assistance. And every year when you go through your recertification process, there's a state maintained database that says which IHSS recipients need assistance evacuating. And so at the supervisors meeting, I encouraged OES and IHSS to have a conversation and make sure that OES was best poised to make use of this database because it hadn't been activated before. And I'm delighted that Kim Britt, who's the head of IHSS, and Dana Carey have a meeting so that they can use that. And moving forward with the evacuation planning, I know there was confusion on July 1st of last year with the county fire when there were some evacuation alerts that went out and then were rolled back. And so I'm just hoping that as we go forward with this, we can just kind of figure out the wrinkles now so that we all make sure that we understand what the alerts are as they come out and just kind of work through that ahead of time. So thank you so much for all the work you're doing with this.
Thank you. Any comments? Great, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Okay, we move on to next agenda items. First one is the planning commission appointments.
Mayor and council, just really quick. It's meant that we necessarily have 3 vacancies on the planning commission, but we do have 3 terms that expire in June. Staff's recommendation is really twofold. One is that the council amongst you select a couple of you to do interviews, and second is that you just authorize us to do the advertisement. Traditionally, we have always asked that even existing planning commission members would reach out, and so the process is really simple. So that we'll advertise, we have the form, and then we've had interviews, and then a subcommittee of the council will do those interviews and make recommendations.
Okay. So, any questions, discussion from the council?
Yeah, just would be interested in being on that committee, because I think that it would be a really good idea to, you know, even if all 3 reapply, just try to engage the public and have a process that's open and transparent, and will also let us know, you know, people in the community that might actually be engaged in, you know, other ways of the city planners ability.
I mean, I'm fine with, it's the same process as we've done in the past, that we'll have 2 members to be on the committee, accept the applications, the interviews, and then bring back recommendation to the council. Okay. And previously, Mayor Pro Tem Cowan and myself were on the last. What is it?
I think it was 2 of us
No,
here.
you and I.
I was on before.
Yeah,
so I'm on before.
I've
So we-
moved around.
2 people that would like to be on it, and Councilmember Lauren, you would like to be on
Yeah.
that? Anyone else?
I'll share. I'll do it again.
Okay. Do we need a motion on that one to move forward with it? No? Okay. Anybody from the public that would like to comment on this process?
I'll provide us here, 210 Main Street.
Go for it. The microphone, please.
As an ex-planning commissioner who's gone through the process several times, I support what you're doing. To try and the method that Winters has used now for maybe 20 years. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been through the process myself when I first applied. Yeah, I think it's worked well.
Most of us have.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move forward with the staff recommendation on that.
I also have public comment on my card for this one.
Yeah, you would like to speak to it?
Yeah, I'll be quick though.
We'll get a seat in the front row.
Well, you gotta get the exercise there, right? All right, Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street. Where do I live? Number 21. And I just also want to say that I'm delighted the council moves forward with this option of opening up applications. I think we've certainly heard a lot in the last month about people being enthusiastic about public process. And this seems like one way to have this just all be as public as possible, that it's out there. And by supporting opening this up, that's actually in support of all the work that the Planning Commission and current commissioners do. I think it's a really valuable body, and so just having this all be as public as possible. I know the city's considered a lot about strategic planning yes, succession planning. I'm sorry, I'm getting all the S's confused. Right, one of the planning. Yeah, the succession planning, and so I think by having this be a public process, it lets people know what the process is and what the opportunities are to get involved, so that we kind of create the farm team out there, people who are interested and engaged. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, unless anyone else would like to speak to it, we'll move on to the next item, which is the downtown merchants trash enclosure proposal.
Let me go get Mike. Hello, I'm just trying to bring a little intro here.
Can you wait just a second?
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Anderson has a conflict, so
All right. So as part of the alley activation, we've been kind of planning long range to remove all the trash and recycling bins from the alley on Newt's Alley and hopefully consolidate and move all the merchants to one area. And so we've been talking to downtown merchants and waste management, and there's been various locations that have been discussed and evaluated. So tonight, the merchants are coming to ask about the city allowing them to build a trash enclosure area in the parking lot, which would probably, depending on where they locate it, take away 2 to 4 parking spots. So there's been various iterations. I gave you a small diagram in your packet, and some of those locations are no longer being discussed. It's kind of an evolving process, and so I think Mike's taking the lead to start that discussion.
Mayor and council members. Yes, Michael Lewis, representing Hotel Winners, 12 Evans Street, and the other merchants along the street. And yeah, we looked at this a number of times. In fact, I started looking at this, I believe John asked me to take a look at this maybe 3 years ago. We started looking at working with waste management on a number of things. And we had one time had looked at possibility at the sale area, but that's turned out to be no longer viable because of the size of what's required as far as the compactors, and we're still waiting for some information back from waste management. But what we have currently right now, what we're presenting right now is something that, based on the information we've received to date, that is still not 100%. We can make it work in this location here. Right? We had a couple of, as Carol mentioned, a couple other locations. But
So can you tell us which location it is you're talking about?
Well, yeah, go to the next slide. I don't have a pointer, but there was at one point we had placed it as you came off the west parking lot coming in. We had looked at putting it there, taking up 2 to 3 spaces, and then I found out later that the truck wasn't able to get in and pick it up, and it also had to have the bins picked up on the backside. So we were rolling bins out into the parking lot, and that became a little kind of iffy. And then when we found out what the total amount of garbage was for all the tenants and business in the back, we didn't have enough bins, so we had to upside, and the only way to make it work was going to 2 compactors. So right now we have 2 compactors, 2 vertical compactors, one for trash, one for recycling, and then we got 2 compost bins. If you go to the next page, you'll see the layout.
Yeah, we don't have any of those.
The next one, the next slide, right there. And that's an image of the compactor. We still don't know what the final size is, but I understand it's close to 93 by 84 the box per minute. And so we need 2 of them for that location in order to handle the recycling, and assuming that we have 2 to 3 pickups a week.
We can't have 3 pickups a week in town.
You can't?
They only service twice.
I'm learning something every day, so it's only 2 then apparently. So in order to handle that we would be required to have 2 of those compactors, of recycling and trash. So that's what we have at this moment.
Okay. So I know what was presented to us in our council packet to look at had 3 locations, and none of them were what's on the map that you showed.
There was 3 locations shown as of
This is all new to us. We have the 3 that we got on that map to look at.
Right.
Consider tonight.
I've done this many times already. So as the information's been given to me, I've been adjusting it on the fly and been going. And so I apologize, but that's the information I've received today.
So can you speak to those other 3 locations?
When you go back to the previous slide, 2 slides, one was for sale, which is a no. And it just won't work there. No one's excited about having it there because of the alley activation plan. They're trying to create that image of coming in and walking the alley. So that was the one spot. So that no longer is viable. And then the previous, the next slide, please. Oh, wrong one. Okay. If you have, the ones that you have, the original ones you have one right there in the corner, right there at the entrance.
Yeah.
Where the orange tree is now.
No,
Number 8.
That was,
Yeah,
check it out.
yeah, we have it on our agenda packet.
Oh,
so you have the Orange Tree location,
that's
the Orange Tree location, the Abbey Street location in the middle of the parking lot. And then there's also the Abbey side of that same little road. That's what you usually sit in.
If I had to click it, I would show.
Here you go. And also the wrong side will advance this side.
Oh, no, I
You need,
need
you want a
mouse.
pointer though.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. The one was shown right here, which won't work because there's a big transformer and so that, in a backdoor device. This right here won't work either because it's all utilities in the fire system and water and all that. So that one was eliminated. This one right here, we had one originally that was long and narrow and we thought it would work, but the size that was required for the compactors made it not long and narrow, but wide and shallow. And that ended up taking 4 spots and then the truck couldn't get in on this angle right here, trying to get to the bins. The one over here by the orange tree, you had this portion right here that necks down, so you have to slide it away from that because it's too close to the egress, trying to get in and out. So it ends up, this is kind of the spot that I can get one in. And that's where we are right now.
So it's basically right directly across the street from the front door of City Hall.
Yes.
I didn't look at that.
That's where it's at.
There was a driveway cut right here, and so when I was out there walking, so we've got a driveway cut right there, the guy can pull in, and that's kind of where, but you could slide it a little bit, one down below or.
And how many parking spots does that one take?
This one takes 3. You can take 3 spaces. This one, no one prefers this at all. This one take any spots, it's not there's no one that really cares for that location, but we think it's important to try and find a location for this thing in order to eliminate the bins and the trash that's in the back. And we think it's what the city's looking for as far as long-term and activating that alley. So what I encourage all of us to try and find a spot for it, please. That's all I can ask for at this point.
I just have a clarifying question.
Yes.
What were you talking about by the orange tree that there's this?
The engineering right now shows, see this right here?
Egress?
The egress to get in and out right there. Pinches down so you can only slide only so far, and then it starts getting in the way of traffic. So, that's all. And I'm not an engineer, so if you want your engineer to look at it a little bit closer.
I have a call in to Todd, the engineer who drew up these plans, to clarify that and to verify that that is an impingement there. We would have to, there's a transformer plan for that, right where the orange tree is, which would facilitate the undergrounding of utilities. So that may push it farther away from where the orange tree is, and it may, instead of being 2 spots, be 3 spots. If the issue that Mike is talking about can be addressed by not, if we have enough room there. So you would probably lose 3 parking spots if you put it over by the orange tree, rather than the 2 initially I thought, because we need to have the clearance for that transformer.
And the information you dropped off this morning, as far as the size of that transformer, it's that size and has to have the same clearance as the one that we have. That's right by the hotel, is going to end up taking up another spot too, because we got to push it away from that, so and put bellards and all that in order to protect it, so it's going to slide it over a little bit more too. So
Definitely challenging.
yes, so.
And am I allowed to talk here?
Yeah, I'll call for comments in just a second. Let me see if other, we have some clarification on the council, then I'll open it up for comments for council.
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around the kind of uses. So say one of these businesses pours a lot of wine. So is there any time of day where all the bottles crash into the can, or can it be like any time of day or night? And, just trying to get a sense of if the compost is gonna be picked up twice a week. Is it gonna just sit there all weekend after a heavy weekend, or, how is this space gonna be used? I don't think that the packet really gives enough explanation of the description of how it's gonna be used as far as like sound and smell, along with, hours of usage and residents sleeping and so forth.
Okay. As everyone knows, there's some new rules coming that have been in place as far as garbage and how we speak about recycling and what have you. I'm sorry.
You can go back.
Okay. In case, so.
It's down at the microphone. At the microphone.
As I was saying, there's new rules that are going to be enforced as far as how restaurants and everybody's supposed to handle their garbage. And so, right now, I believe the Buckhorn is doing a really good job as far as the separation of all their food, their waste, and recycling. And the merchants have discussed also using bottle crushers on our own properties to crushing the bottles, getting them down so they're almost like sand, in order to help with the recycling. Because the biggest problem is people throwing cardboard, it takes up volume, and it's, there's a 4-foot box and they just throw it in, and the next thing you know, your garbage can's full. So we want to avoid all that. We're supposed to be breaking down the boxes, getting them out there, getting them inside the recycle, crushing them down, and that's how it's going to be used. So yes, that's a big concern as far as having a big weekend. It happens. The garbage goes in there Saturday and Sunday, and we have to wait until Monday for pickup. And I don't know what we can do about that, other than the fact that we're looking into air fresheners and things like that. And we're going to have to put in water drainage over there in order to keep the garbage area clean. It's a maintenance issue that we all have to deal with. So that's our program. But I just need to get more information on what the actual size of these vertical compactors are. Because if you can find something that works that makes it a little bit smaller, that's where you go with. So, stay tuned.
Questions from council, clarification, we'll have to work session after we get the comment from the audience.
Okay, my only question for you is, are you representing the hotel, or are you representing everybody that's going to use it?
As I mentioned, I'm representing the hotel and the restaurant with Frank. So, okay. And I'm hoping that we're all working together, trying to find that a location, because I believe everybody, all the other businesses want the same thing, and that is to eliminate, I think we've got, I don't know, I frankly, how many? 14 of these things out there. And when that guy goes through, I've been out there a few months now, and they hear that guy going through, picking up all those bins and the trash that's left behind. It's a mess. And I don't think that it would do service to what we're trying to do here in the town, and what John's worked so hard on as far as the LA activation plan. So I would encourage all of us to find that solution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Wait, okay. I will go ahead and open it up to public for comment. Give us your name, address, please.
Emery Van Gallio, 202 Main Street, Buckhorn Cafe, Buckhorn Catering. So the part that's a little difficult on this, and Mike touched on it, is that there's just a ton of pieces that we don't have the information on as we've been coming together as a group. And Carol knows this as well. So this is us trying to say, or saying, hey, we think compactors are going to be the way to go, but we still don't even have the pricing on the compactors. And what we have heard in some meetings is that if we use compactors, that the price for our trash is going to essentially double.
That's changed.
Has that changed?
Yes.
Hopefully not going to be that. But the other thing that is a factor here with the compactor, with the recycling compactor, is that we now will pay for recycling. Whereas right now, we don't currently pay for recycling. It's part of our trash agreement that you get, 6 yards, and then you can have up to a 6 yard. I know more about trash in the last month than I ever thought that I would know. And every time I go into a trash meeting, I always say, seriously, I'm going into another trash meeting. So I understand that a decision needs to be made, but at this point, this plan was just shown to some of us this morning because some of the information that was coming through waste management, we didn't have on the initial plans of what you guys saw. So I would love to say, hey, we're all in agreement, but I don't think that all of the businesses have even seen this. And I know that parking is an issue. Every location is an issue. It's close to this business, it's close to that business, it's right in front of your front door. There's a lot of unanswered questions, but I know that you guys need an answer soon. So don't shoot the messenger, I guess is what I'm saying, because we're waiting.
Okay. Thank you. Eric Tavener, you turned in a sheet. You'd like to speak to this?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Come to the microphone.
Good evening. Mayor, thank you for letting me lead the pledge of allegiance today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Can't hear you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about agenda item number 2, titled Downtown Merchants Trash Enclosure Proposal. My name is Eric Tavener. I'm a licensed registered civil engineer in the state of California, license number C35514. I have 33 years of experience as a transportation engineer with Caltrans. I have extensive experience and knowledge of traffic design and construction. And my license grants me a unique privilege. And that privilege is to speak my professional opinion as an expert witness in California courts. I'm here before you today to caution the council on accepting a design proposal from the merchants labeled E. Now, I'm working off the agenda packet, not some moving target that's not agendized. And I would hope that you would only consider what's on the agenda. The diagram in your packet is on page 24. Where is the merchant's actual proposal? I have a copy. Okay. Now, upon inspecting the proposal and the agendized map, to be clear, the title of the council agenda should be more accurately called Downtown Merchants Trash Site Location and Parking Lot Design Proposal. In the agenda packet, there is no staff recommendation or discussion of this location. Why not? John, did staff give you the recommendation? So I didn't see the packet.
No, actually, we've kind of given this to the downtown merchants to come up with a recommendation.
Okay. And are they licensed civil engineers in the state of California, John?
So typically we don't get into dialogue during public comment. This is your
Okay.
opportunity to comment on the.
I just wanted to point out that I inspected the signatories to that document. None of them are licensed. I looked it up. As a professional, I can point to a number of issues. The new city parking lot is still a barren site. It is public land and is going to be a public roadway and parking lot. There are some sketches such as the one in your packet, and apparently some new ones every day. And the design proposal from the merchants, which I provided you. And now, to be sure, the parking lot is a much awaited amenity. I'm sure plenty of people are looking for parking. Yet none of the drawings or plans bear the stamp, seal, and signature of a licensed engineer, a requirement for engineering work products. Now, waste management and city officials met on the street near Abbey and First on April 4th at approximately 11 a.m. I happened upon the meeting while walking. In attendance were Dan McGuire, and Carol Santa from the city, Dennis Mitchell, route manager, and Henry of waste management.
Carol and Dan were inquiring about the egress for the merchant designed location B and the First Street Alley location, which are shown on submitted agenda item here, sites A and B. Okay. Henry of Waste Management stated that the alley and First Street location had preferable access via the Abbey Street location versus the Abbey Street location B. Henry offered that in fact, a waste management truck had been involved in an accident against one of their trucks just last week due to a similar design layout to location B, where an auto backed into one of their trucks and mentioned the diagonal parking design as a contributing issue. Henry preferred the location A. Now, duty to notify. The merchant's design proposal is a dangerous one. It has numerous life safety issues. To begin with, it is designing an engineering product without a license. It is a design by laymen. Those signatory to it are unwittingly binding themselves to a lifetime liability for any injury should their site be adopted. Parking lots are notoriously dangerous places for pedestrians. Over 5,000 people are killed by vehicles backing in parking lots every year in the USA. There are obvious reasons for danger in parking lots, as every driver leaving a lot drives in reverse. And driving backwards has very poor visibility as opposed to driving forwards. Navigating a parking lot as a pedestrian is dangerous enough and does require full attention. Now, just as an aside, I'd be willing to state for the record that Caltrans, where you worked previously, has probably designed more parking lots than any other public agency in California. Okay. You have to have your head on a pivot. You have to be able to jump, dodge cars. It's crucial to remain as safe as possible in a parking lot. You have to be aware of your surroundings. What the merchants are proposing, however, would result in employees of many businesses having to trundle a heavy, full garbage tote across a parking lot directly behind the path of parked cars. Not only does managing a full garbage tote require some strength and skill, it diminishes the operator pedestrian's attention and blocks their view, such as an illuminated backup light. All design standards for parking lots recognize that directing pedestrians behind cars is dangerous. This should be obvious to anyone. Actual good engineering practice is to provide a dedicated pedestrian path of travel between the fronts of vehicles. I'm sure you've seen this in many commercial parking lots. Certainly to access a frequently used feature such as a dumpster. The idea that 11 businesses, but I understand it's more. How many businesses would use that dumpster?
There's about 11. Actually, it's probably less than that.
The idea that 11 businesses would be generating pedestrian toter traffic round trips every day results in a dangerous condition that is a notable flaw of the merchant's design. As a licensed registered engineer, I'm here to notify the City Council and attorneys of these facts. 1. Under the Professional Engineer Act, designing without a license is a misdemeanor in California. And 2. Under the Professional Engineer Act, I have a duty to notify you of the life safety implications of the dangerous merchant's proposal. I urge you to reject the proposed location B. Consider it your first duty for the safety of our fellow citizens. And that implies you have a duty of care. Now, maybe even can correct me, but I'll give you the definition of a duty of care. It's a requirement that a person act towards others and the public with watchfulness, attention, caution, and prudence that a reasonable person in the circumstances would use. If a person's actions do not meet the standard of care, then acts are considered negligent, and any damages resulting may be claimed in a lawsuit for negligence. I've seen non-engineers just designing your infrastructure here, and that is a public lot. That is city-owned property. Requires a licensed engineer. Now, it's one thing to invite the public to decide what color to paint a mural or other innocuous things, but to invite them to design a parking lot is a fool's errand. Now, thank you for listening to my professional opinion. Engineering judgment is it's a very weighty thing. Working for Caltrans for 33 years, I've seen it all. And I would hope that you would recognize my judgment and my licensure in this state and heed my concerns. The council has a duty of care not to accept the dangerous location B, the design of laymen. And I'm respectfully submitting this with my stamp and seal. See? But just so you can see part of the problems here. Now, I'm going to go off the agendized item because I believe that's all we can really talk about. So that would be this map, not that map, and not any other map. Mr. Lee, this is brought in today. So, recognizing that by forcing traffic behind parked cars, traffic, that's a real no-no for parking lot design. Anyway, thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So just for clarification, I think what we're looking at tonight, we're looking at a site location. We're not approving a plan for the enclosure tonight. Basically, we are talking about 3 locations which were presented to us. The 4th one tonight, I don't know, Ethan, is that something we can consider since it was not agendized and advertised in public?
What I understood this item to be is we would talk about potential locations for the trash culture. Any actual design of the parking lot would have to be done by a professional engineer. These are clearly not engineering plans. So it's an opportunity for us to have a dialogue about where this trash enclosure should go. It's an iterative process. It hasn't come to council before. I think staff tried to make some effort to get some consensus from the merchants to see if they could come forward with something that would work for us. Obviously, we're the ultimate decision maker on it. It's property. So this is one step in that process towards finding that. And so really, I saw this as a discussion about locations that would lead to an ultimate decision at a subsequent time.
Thank you. Emery, would you care to comment again?
Just quickly, Emery, 202 Russell, Buckhorn Cafe. So one, we were asked to give a recommendation, which is all this was.
When you say we, can you tell me who
We, the
you're representing?
downtown businesses who utilize the alley, or who are all on the alley and potentially would be using a localized area for trash cans. We were asked for a recommendation. That's all this is. None of us are saying that we are professional engineers or designers. Luckily, we have Mike, who has skills to be able to do schematics for us to see, space, how many spaces it's going to take up, that kind of thing. But really what I was coming up to say is just a reminder, many people might not know this, but there are many businesses in town who have trash cans in parking lots already. So it is something that the city of Winters has had for years. The Pewter Creek Cafe walks across the street on Railroad with their
bins, and we wear vests. All of our staff have to wear brightly colored vests, and then they walk into a parking lot and dump their trash. Steady Eddies does that, Hoobies does that, Turkovich does that, the list goes on and on. In a small town, we don't have a ton of locations, and parking lots seem to be the place that we usually go. So my 2 cents, I will leave it at that.
Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this before I go to the council? Seeing none?
I just
Carol,
want to say
have a
that,
comment?
clarification. I apologize for, it's definitely not a complete package, and like Ethan said, it's just kind of a starting point to have a discussion to get your input on where the city council would like to see something. We have nailed down cost estimates on this new vertical compactor, and we definitely need to get the layout to nail down so that we can see, how many parking spots. But I definitely think it's going to be at a minimum 3 parking spots. Well, he thinks 2 there, so 2 to 3 parking spots. Could be 4 depending on where you put it. So we can come back with more details once we get more engineers. And we're kind of pushing it because we want to get the parking lot out to bid. So we need to kind of at least designate the area where we think it might go, so we can plan a lot around that, and then get the engineers involved and really know how to do
Sense.
just trying to, and I'm, waiting on pricing for waste management, and it's all just kind of been rushed, but we at least wanted to get the conversation going, so thank you for your patience and, not complete information on all areas.
John, just for clarification on the whole engineering part, is it not true that whatever's decided would then be given to the engineer that's doing the drawing for the parking lot, and it would be incorporated into that, and they're the ones that do the drawing, and that's part of the package that gets presented for people to bid on, right? That's correct. All right.
Mayor, can I answer to that?
No, I
I'd like
think
to make a
the city
comment.
manager answered. I think that was pretty clear, so thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Callen, you had some other comments?
Yeah, I do.
Well, designing is a process. You have,
Yeah, we'll go through that process, but tonight we're looking at a
you
site.
can't decide what you want the design like and then have an engineer represent
Thank
it.
you, thank you.
It has to be designed as a
Okay.
whole.
We're looking at a site tonight, and we will present that as part of the plan that the engineers will draw up and come back to us for approval at a later date.
Okay, I'll continue.
Okay.
Okay. I don't feel at this point we have a complete plan. We have a reasonable proposal here for where to put it because, as has been mentioned, we don't even know for certain the size of the equipment and the size of the space needed and what the requirements are going to be from waste management. It seems to me like we're too far ahead of the game here. We don't have enough answers to the questions that need to be answered. And if that means we can't go get prices on the parking lot yet and finish the design of the parking lot, then so be it. But it seems to me like we're missing too many pieces of the pie here. We've had, Mike get up here and tell us, well, maybe the thing's 93 by 84, and maybe we need 2 of them, and then we need to compost things. And with the way the garbage is these days, with recycle, compost, regular garbage, it's not like a can in the alley anymore like it used to be. I think, we need to take a breath here and gather all the pertinent information, put it together, and come up with something that all the merchants can agree on for a location that works. I mean, I don't see at this point where any of them are acceptable without knowing all the information and what it needs to be and how big it needs to be and whether or not the truck can access it. The only thing I'm totally against is putting it in the alley, because if we're gonna do our whole alley activation plan that we've talked about for years, and we're gonna bury the utilities and do everything we want to do in that alley, who wants to have a monster garbage truck running up and down it, tearing up what we just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on? So it needs to move out of the alley somewhere, but we don't even know how big yet. So I think we're premature here, personally. my 2 cents.
Thank you. Councilmember Lee?
I just agree that, I was going to say that it might need to be tabled for a while. Yes. I would have a very hard time making a decision on this with the information we have.
I concur.
Comments? Yeah, so I have a few comments on it as well. I mean, I realize there's no spot where it's gonna be perfect and everybody's gonna agree on it. It's going to be in a bad spot for somebody. Of the 3 locations that were presented to us in the packet, the way I see it, location A, which is where the orange tree is now, and it shows it taking up 2 parking spaces, which I hate to see that. I mean, we fight so hard for parking spaces, and first thing we do before we even get the parking lot built, we're talking about taking 2 of those spaces out. And tonight I'm hearing it may even be larger. That would be the preferred location of the 3 presented, even of the 4th one presented tonight. I don't want to see it out in front of City Hall, across from the front door. I think that's representing our city very well. We have that. I know it's not too far down in the alley, but having it on that corner location there where the orange tree is makes sense because I believe the truck can access it from the street. Is that right, Carol?
Correct.
Can pull in from the street and get it. People that would be putting the trash into it, would that be from the sidewalk side or from the parking lot side?
Probably from the parking lot side.
And the
Or
cars would be.
possibly the alley.
Yes. And the transformer.
Well, the transformer would be there, yeah, so.
Does the orange tree go?
The orange tree would have to go. Well, the orange tree is going regardless,
He's going away.
unfortunately. That's where the transformer, yeah. I'm heartbroken about that too.
I don't want to see the orange tree go either, but we have to put the trash somewhere. And we've got to get it out of the alley.
Transformer's going there.
Transformer's going.
So yeah, I agree with what Mayor Pro Tem Callen has said that, at this point, I don't know that we have enough information to move forward with the decision tonight, but of the 3 that are presented, or the 4, I would say A is most logical, but without more information, we can't make a decision.
I agree. I think that the information isn't enough, but out of those scenarios in our packet, A seems to be the best one, the most accessible. And if the city could explore the parking lot with it there in A, I would support that.
And of these 3 locations, which one is the one preferred by the downtown business?
But we have to be careful with A as well, because of the whole thing with, we've been working for years to get Rule 20 money to bury the electrical and stuff.
Yeah, we do. We need all that
If there's a
information.
transformer going there, that's another piece of the pie we need to know, because then it would have to move further down, so.
So and the recommendation that the group made as a whole was the location on Abbey. That's the one that everybody signed saying, this is the
So
recommendation.
can you come up, so the people at home can hear you and make sure you say the one on Abbey?
I don't,
It's up.
There's 2 of them on
It's
Abbey.
B, it's B.
One on
So-
Abbey.
when the Emory 202
That's what
Russell,
this is.
okay. When the group on the alley, businesses on the alley came together, the people who are utilizing the garbage cans and the people who are paying for the garbage cans, we came to the agreement, and the document that people signed for a recommendation, it's not a legal document. We agreed upon the B location because of the transformer and knowing that some buildings on the alley are looking to make improvements on the back end of their alley. I don't think it's public knowledge as to who's talking about doing that, but there are businesses that are looking at activating their back area, knowing that the city is working on an alley activation, so everybody wants to utilize that space. So if the whole point is that we're trying to do that, we still are going to have a big garbage can right on that corner, as well as we know that the transformer has to go there. So that is why the agreement was made for B. I understand that some people don't agree with B. Nobody is going to agree, like Mayor Biazzi said, we're all going to have differences. But the letter that you guys received as a recommendation was for B.
And location B in our packet says it would take up 3 spaces, which at this point, I guess we don't really know because we
Yeah.
don't know the dimensions yet,
I
so
think
I can't.
it could be 4 spaces.
Could be 4 spaces, and so that's something I definitely can't make a decision on.
Well,
without more
the
information.
drawing that you have right now that you're referencing is not the same measurement as what is on the screen right now. So that would need to be, and again, it's because we are not getting all of the information from Waste Management. So it comes and goes, and we're, putting it in schematics as fast as we can.
I think part of the confusion also with the B location was we were thinking at that point that we would be rolling out 4-yard bins, but then when we looked at what we needed in terms of capacity, of what's generated, that wasn't enough space, so you'd have to bring in, that's when we realized we had to bring in vertical compactors, which do not roll. So the truck has to be able to go in and front head on and pull this thing that weighs now, 3 times as much as they compact 3-to-1 ratio, so now it's 4 times heavier than a regular 4-yard bin or whatever, so it needs to be able to drive in. So when we had that conversation with Waste Management, that was not a point that we talked to them about, because we were thinking roll-offs, he would roll them out to the middle of the parking lot, and we'd be able to get them there, so we would have to get Waste Management, who is willing to come back out again and look at all these spots. They're also giving me some consideration on possibly adding a 3rd day pickup, so there's still a lot of stuff that's, but we were hoping to at least I appreciate getting at least some feedback on what your preference is in terms of the spot that you would be most able to support as city council.
Yeah.
So,
One other location that is not on any of the drawings tonight, was brought up at a previous meeting that we had with the trash center, was an area back behind on this alley here, off City Hall, where the signal tower and air compressor are located. Did we look at that?
we did not look at that.
To make
I
sure.
just felt like it was further away from all the merchants,
Yeah, the merchants would have to cross the street.
across the street again. And I don't know.
It's a much less busy street than Railroad though.
Yes, yeah.
I think that should be considered as a potential location if it's big enough and something we need to look into. I would think the truck could possibly come straight through the Eagle Truck parking lot if they would allow that. Pull straight in to lift it and empty it, make the turn and go out the alleys.
The space that we're looking at as far as the enclosure would be about 18 by 22, somewhere in that size range.
Given the dimensions, this site doesn't work because 22 has to be a long way. Then we'd be talking about taking out this tree, which would be a struggle.
Orange tree.
Sounds like nobody wants it.
Yeah, nobody wants it,
I mean,
exactly.
that's the other thought though.
We could
We've
just
all
leave it
been we've all been disposing trash. So we can continue doing what we're doing for the time being.
That is an option that everybody has it on their property, and if that's something that's decided in the future, that's something we can discuss. But I know part of our alley activation plan is to get all those things out of the alley and clean it up and make it more pedestrian friendly.
Yes.
Mhm.
Question?
Please come up to the microphone. Yes, thank you.
My name is Ellie Gateman. I live on Abbey Street, 209. This is just for my information, but is there a plan to close that alley to traffic? Or will it eventually be only foot traffic?
I believe there will still be traffic through there. It will never be closed completely to pedestrians, is my understanding.
Thank you.
I was thinking of moving, tabling then. Is that motion? Motion, yeah. I move for the
Comment?
Just maybe to kind of wrap this thing up.
Yeah.
Maybe from the staff standpoint, just to kind of make the council aware, I think we'll greenlight just getting this out to there can be a change. And another point, we need to put together our construction drawings that if we have to amend those, we can do that. But unquestionably, we need to get this out to bid so that we start moving towards the construction of the parking lot. Obviously, we need to narrow down and get the absolute dimensions. And what would maybe probably the best course of action, we'll get the construction drawings on the parking. We'll get those developed, we'll get this thing out to bid. We will narrow down what the dimensions are and let us work from the basis that we will find a location in there which takes up the fewest number of parking spaces, give it that Waste Management would agree to, and we will bring that back to the council.
So the motion on the table is,
Can you make a motion?
so the motion is to table the discussion on the location of the trash enclosure. We've already previously approved moving forward with the plans on parking.
Yes,
That's already done, so just tabling the discussion on the proposed locations for the parking lot. So that's the motion. Do we have a second?
Until when? Sorry, just indefinitely.
I'd like to see it at the next meeting,
Yeah.
personally. If we can get some
To the
answers in
next
2
meeting.
weeks.
Amended to the next meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? Passes unanimously. Can you bring Councilmember Anderson back? Okay, extended stay. Yeah. Okay, the next item on tonight's agenda is the SB1, fiscal year 2019-20 road rehab project list and resolution 2019-9.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Today I bring forth an SB1 presentation or an update on what we're doing here in Winters with SB1 funds. 2017, slide. 2017 project list. We brought these projects to the City Council and they were approved. We received about $45,000 in funding for that year. It was a partial year of funding. The project list was approved in October 3rd, 2017. But just like everything else, the project list was updated due to cost escalation here in Winters. Seems to be our favorite term. So what you see on the table, that whole table was approved. Those four repairs there. But what we went with was the grind and pave overlay of East Main Street between Railroad Avenue and Elliott Street. The streets we didn't get to, we moved them to a future project list. Next slide. As you can see, it's a snap some pictures just to give you an idea of what we're doing with new funding here in town. And one of the big reasons we decided to do the grind and pave overlay on this area is because it's it's a main thoroughfare for commercial vehicles and regular vehicles, all kinds of traffic there. Next one. And then for 2018-19, we came to council last year. We brought this list. What you see in green is the new list that we changed. So there are some streets that are going to be left out, like I previously mentioned. The streets we don't get to due to cost escalations and different pricing of everything. We will move them to future fiscal years. So we create kind of this priority list, and we don't just abandon a list that we've already
So the ones that you're referring to, those
Yeah,
small
the
X's
ones,
on
yeah,
there?
the X's, the ones with the green.
Ones with the
on them.
green.
Those are the ones that we are doing,
Green.
and the ones in green. That whole table was approved, but like I said, we have to reconfigure the list because, cost escalation. And we're receiving about $115,000 for SB1 funding this fiscal year. We receive monthly apportionments every month beginning at the beginning of the fiscal year. And we'll receive the last check for this fiscal year in June. So we're expected to start on these projects next month with the funding that we're getting. We would like to start on these projects at the beginning of every fiscal year, but we don't have the money yet. We get them every month, and they're divided evenly up until the end of the fiscal year. So as you can see, that creates a conflict because we don't go out to bid a year in advance, because we don't have the money. Next slide. So yeah, for 2018-19 project list, what we're going to get done, we'll get started on the projects next month. As far as 2019-20, which is the proposed list that I'm bringing forth today to the city council, includes all these repairs, mainly slurry seals, crack seals, and spot repairs. That seems to be what gives our bang for our buck for most of our streets. It extends the life of our streets 5 to 7 years. And the amount of square footage that we're covering with this fiscal year is basically similar amounts to what the list that we reconfigured for the current fiscal year. We're expected to get around $120,000 in SB1 funding next fiscal year. Once again, that could change as well. Like last year, it changed by about $5,000 less because it changes month to month. So it's kind of a moving target every month and every year, from here on out. But we're trying our hardest to get a list that's going to be completed. But every year we got to take out certain streets and reconfigure the list, like I said. For this next year's project list, we expect to begin repairs in May of 2020, so the end of next fiscal year. And the approved project list and resolution is due to the California Transportation Commission on May 1st. And with that, if you have any questions?
Questions for the council?
Just a comment. You might want to talk to the lady sitting behind you about Pavement Street.
I've drove Neiman a few times, and there's you see a lot of the alligator tracking, and the street actually coming up in certain areas. Like this, the list that we come out with to the CTC and that gets approved, it can be reconfigured in many ways. We can add streets and take off streets as long as most of the projects list, most of the streets that we actually repair are on there. We can't change the list entirely, but we can add or remove, but we have to report that to the CTC. It's our, we have to be 100% transparent. If from now until next year, Neiman becomes, more of a priority than one of these streets, we can do that.
So when we did that pavement condition index on it was a couple years ago now.
That's where it comes from.
And when will that be done again?
The pavement condition index, it's whenever we get a street surveyed again. Depending on when we have to contract somebody to do it. I would imagine that the construction going on Stones Throw and Heartland or whoever uses Neiman, the condition's gonna deteriorate faster than a regular street, a residential street.
Yeah, it wasn't quite designed for that kind of traffic.
And I mean, most of our streets, haven't had much, repairs or treatment in quite some time due to funding. But like I said, our list can change.
Yeah, maybe to answer we've been doing it about every 5 to 7 years. Typically, transportation agency requests, where are we at on various things? So, like we did 2 years ago, so 5 years ago.
Yes, question. John, is there any way the street is getting used for something that's going to be designed? Is there any way?
Yeah, in the case of, and we'll have our public works inspector go and check out Neiman. And if there are potholes or things that are coming up because of the construction out there, those are some things that we can go to the developer and say, hey, we gotta get out here and fix these. So I've got a note, we'll pass on to the public works inspector to make sure that it works.
Comments from the council, questions? Anybody in the public who would like to comment on this? Yes.
Tina Loudon, 320 Neiman Street. We've been seeing those, I guess Jerry calls them the double belly or whatever they're called, just tear the streets apart. Not only Neiman, but Moody Slough, right in the corner of Griffin and Moody Slough, there was a big dip, and I thought we're going to have a sinkhole over there, but somebody came in and repaired it. My question is, did we get any money from the developer, or can we ask them for some money? Because they really, really tore our street up. And also, some of the new tenants on Main Street, they're complaining about a lot of truck traffic there too. So I'm just curious about that, John.
Okay, your turn.
Yeah, I think we talked already about looking at having the engineer look at the street and see if there's something that we can get the developer to do as far as repairs on that. And as far as Moody Slough and Road 88 out there, those things were in really bad condition prior to any development occurring out there. And I know that they're in really bad shape now, but I believe as the future phases of the developments come along, they will be repaving Moody Slough as well as Road 88. Is that correct, John?
Yeah. As they move into what they're labeling as phase 2 improvements, which I think they're going to start this year. But all of that, Moody Slough is going to be completely rebuilt. It'll be a brand new street to standard. And
Curbs, gutters.
the kind of confluence of the Martinez property, Castle View, Moody Slough, and Road 88. It's all 100% doable.
We were also noticing, coming from Main Street down Neiman, it's a nice creepy going down when we see cars going, way down. There might be a possibility that we might have to, I hate this word, the undulations to slow down some of these cars, but we have noticed a big uptick. Yes, the road is closed, but we all use it still, on Main. So I'm just curious. Really? Yes.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Look at it, Eric.
Public that would like to comment? Okay. We'll open it up for a motion.
So I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2019-09 to approve the project list, design, concept, locations, budget, and authorize bids.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next agenda item, we have the climate action plan and resiliency update.
Me again, council member, Mayor. So this, I've been asked to kind of give you an update on what we're doing regarding climate change impacts and resiliency. So we've been really fortunate working with the climate change contract of Yolo County. They've been able to help us out a lot. Back in 2015, They helped pay James Energy Group to draft our climate action plan. It's very complete, it detailed over 180 possible action items. And the city felt like it was a little overwhelming to kind of work through that and have our, to implement. So we kind of never really brought it forward as an agenda item to be adopted. So it's been sitting in draft form, and since 2015, things have changed a lot. And now there are legislation changes that include having to add resiliency elements and other things as part of your cap. So we went back to the climate compact folks again, and they once again were very generous in providing $20,000 in support. And we're working with the Ascent Environmental Group, and they are a consulting firm that is helping us to not redo the whole climate action plan, but just kind of get some of the groundwork done. I've listed some of the elements that they're helping us to kind of outline. We're going to work on strategy effectiveness, how to qualify and quantify the greenhouse gas and efforts in mitigating those, and how we might integrate it with our general plan, and also looking at greenhouse gas reductions and adaptation strategies, and also incorporating public engagement. So we expect this report to be done in early June. I've been working also with regional groups on resiliency issues that we're calling ourselves the YOLO Resiliency Planning Group, looking for a new name. So last year we did a great focus group. We got together a lot of city management, fire, police, and we all came together to talk about climate resiliency. It was a really good meeting that brought a lot of different players to the table. We're going to be following that up again this summer, and as a group, the regional group hired a Civic Spark Fellow, which is a graduate or student that comes and helps for 11 months on a specific project. And so she's been working with putting together a template for cities to develop climate resiliency plans. Sarah is going to be coming to you all to give her presentation in the next few weeks. And I'm hoping to, I've got an application in to try to get a Civic Spark to work with cities specifically on general plan, climate action plan, resiliency, and also hoping to get this, what I call a community action committee going, because I really feel like if we're going to do anything to alleviate and mitigate climate change effects, we're going to really need to get the community involved. So I'm really hoping to get a climate fellow working on getting that group going. We have a lot of very interested people in this community that really want to help us move forward in becoming more resilient. For us, it's going to be high impact climate, intense heat events more often, longer periods, and more wildfires. And we're not really going to have to worry too much about sea level rise, but these are real issues that are going to be really impactful, especially to our vulnerable community members. So I'm hoping we can move us forward to being a more resilient community and be better prepared, mitigate as best we can, but knowing that effects are already here, so we need to really kind of step up and make sure we take care of our residents, so we have at least bad effects from that. That's kind of where I'm at. Any questions?
Well, I'm really excited about this. I was wondering, will we be forming a commission?
I'm hoping some kind of an ad hoc committee or something that I'm really enthusiastic about getting going. I know I've been starting a list of all the people I know that may be really interested in joining those efforts.
Well, I think now that we have a senior commission, maybe we need a climate commission.
Right now, I'm hoping that we can, the budget is we need, the climate compact is paying for half of the fellow. If we get a fellow, it's $26,000, and they're willing to pay $12,500, so we need to come up with the other. If we can get I have money in this year's budget, but if I can't get it authorized in time, I may need to come back next year fiscal to get a budget authorization to kind of get that money to pay that person. I think it'd be a really good investment. They'd be here beginning in August, and they'd stay for 11 months. So they do all the payroll. It's a pretty good program. And they have a wonderful opportunity to work with our local government and small town. And so I'm hoping they do. It's up to us to hire the person that matches our needs best. So they don't just stick someone out here that isn't really what we are looking for. So.
Are there any possibilities for grants to help pay for that?
On our,
That other cap that we need to come up with?
I'm not sure, I haven't looked at that, but we have money in this year's budget for climate change, so if I can get it processed this fiscal year, we should be fine, so. I think that's it. So hopefully, yeah, you should be seeing Sarah in the next few weeks to do her presentation on what she's working on. So it's been a really good group. Yeah, it's all the cities and the Climate Compact and the Rural Housing Authority and the tribes just joined us. So it's a really good regional group talking about these issues. So.
Okay, thank you. I know we have at least one member of the audience who would like to speak to us. Kate Laddish has turned in a form requesting to speak to this item.
Oh, shocker. Gee, I wonder who it is. Just sit up here. Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. And I'd like to start by thanking staff, thanking Carol so much for working on this. I know work started several years ago, and I really appreciate that the effort has been restarted. And as I've said in previous meetings and on different topics, I think addressing climate change, both in us decreasing our contributions to it, as well as making the city of Flinders more resilient to the effects of climate change, is of paramount importance. And so I think it's terrific that we're addressing this in a concerted way with this, so that we can also look at it as we look at any potential specific plans that come in, or looking at a general plan refresh. I think it's an important piece of the puzzle. I have a couple questions. One is, I think it'd be a great idea to have the Community Action Committee or our Climate Commission. And so one of my requests would be that if this happens, and I would encourage it to happen, that council directs staff for that to be something that council appoints, and to just be an advisory body that's advisory to the council. And that way the information just all stays as public, and the council gets informed directly of what that advisory body would come up with, and as well as capitalizing on the expertise within our staff. And just a couple other quick points. I wasn't entirely sure, and this is a question rather than a request. I wasn't entirely sure what council was being asked to do today, if it was to accept something specific, or if it was
to receive an update.
It is just to receive an update. Okay, I wasn't sure if it was to accept that outline or something specific. So okay, thank you for the clarification. And the last is a comment that there are a lot of very deep experts actually in this specific topic and very close to us. And some of them we could probably talk to for free. And I think that would be a great idea. The California just released its 4th climate change assessment, and that just came out in August. The person who wrote the executive summary for the entire document is named Jim Thorne. He's an ecologist at UC Davis. And brought him in to speak to some different groups. He has a terrific idea of what the different tools are in the climate change assessment that are available for free for cities to use, and that they're designed specifically for different regions and different scales of government. And so I think Carol and I have talked about that before, but I think it would be something that the city could draw on some of the expertise that's there, and possibly without paying a lot of money. So thank you again to.
I think the other great idea is for Kate to be the first member of the committee.
So I just signed myself up.
You're on the top of my list, Kate.
Thank you. I'd be
you accept?
Be honored, Kate.
I'd be honored.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments from council? Not, we move on to the next agenda item, which is consideration of resolution 2019-10.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Yes, staff is bringing before you tonight this particular resolution, which is the result of conversations, ongoing conversations with Domus Development, the developer for the Blue Mountain Terrace Senior Apartments. And in one of those conversations, they asked for assistance from city staff to see if we could help them get the county facilities and services fees for the project reduced or waived. And in working with and communicating with county planning staff, we came to understand that in order to qualify for a reduction in county fees, the city would similarly have to waive some of our impact fees. So with that in mind, working with the Director of Finance, Shelley Gunby, Shelley prepared what it would look like pre and post approval of a reduction in fees in the amount of $100,000. And that reduction would be matched by the county, reducing their county fees by a similar amount. And in talking to Taro, that actual approval, once we provide documentation of the city's action and that the project satisfies the three requirements of the county ordinance on waiving fees, that can be done ministerially. So with that in mind, the proposal is for a reduction in impact fees. I would point out that said proposed reduction is specified as one of the tools in the toolbox for affordable housing under our existing inclusionary housing ordinance. It's also one of the tools in the toolbox that is called out in our current housing element. So I know conversationally with one council member, the question was raised, well, does this mean that every housing development that comes into town is similarly going to apply for this kind of fee reduction? And staff's response to that is we're tying this to specific language in our inclusionary housing ordinance and in our housing element, both of which allow for council consideration of a reduction or a waiver in fees. So if the project is an affordable housing project, then yes, you can consider fee reductions for future affordable housing projects, but that doesn't mandate that it needs to be considered for market rate housing development that comes before the city. So there is a companion item that will come before you subsequent to this agenda item, wherein commensurate with the impact fees that were proposed, staff is recommending to the council, we would similarly reduce the financial support that's being provided to them from the Housing Trust Fund, thus keeping the overall level of city funding assistance to the project consistent with the additional gap funding that council approved back last year. So I don't want to say that it's apples and apples, because impact fees can be spent in a wider variety of ways than housing trust fund fees, but we felt it was important to keep the overall level of support consistent with what we brought to council back in 2018, because a lot of that was predicated on both the city and Domus participating in the lift to close the final gap to move the project forward. And I'm sure all council members sitting here are wondering, well, when is the project going to move forward? And so I'll go ahead and include that in my narrative. And the most recent date that I've seen in the closing, there's a weekly closing call, and the new target date for closing is May 15th. And that really is a function of a couple of extensions that are needed for the project, specifically the infill infrastructure grant and the MHP, and both of which have to be approved by the Department of Finance. So we're waiting for Department of Finance approval for those extensions. But the building plans are in, we're ready to issue the permit. So once the closing occurs, we would expect them to pull the permits and start construction almost immediately. So again, the staff recommendation is the adoption of resolution 2019-10, approving a reduction of the city impact fees in the amount of $100,000 to assist in the development of the project. And as was stated earlier, that would result in a similar reduction from Miller County. And it would definitely impact the project's finances in a very positive manner. It's a tight project. As an example, I think the contingency fee in the pro forma financial that was provided to us was a 5% contingency, and that's Mayor Pro Tem Callum will tell you that's about as slim as you ever want to go on a contingency. So we're just trying to build the project to a successful conclusion. So that's it. Any questions? I'm happy to.
Questions?
I asked them this morning.
No, I'll just comment, I'm okay with this. I mean, we're still getting a pretty substantial amount of impact fees off this project based on its size, $828,000+. So it's, and it's being pretty evenly dispersed amongst all the different funds. So I think it's fine if it helps us get this thing across the finish line. And it's an affordable project, just something we need. I definitely support it.
So I need a little clarification on this. I mean, we're talking about, when I first read that, we're asking to reduce their impact fees. I was not for that. I mean, we're looking at reducing the amounts going into these various funds for things that, when we built our impact fees, we built them on a certain understanding that when things are developed, this is how much we're going to pay. And now we're saying, well, we're going to let them pay less. So then what's that going to do to the studies we did on the impact fees? It's going to kind of throw that off. But my understanding is the money that we have on the next agenda item will kind of make up for that. Is that correct?
Yes, but, and the but is impact fees are impact fees, and they can be spent in the categories that they're collected for, whereas housing trust fund fees can only be spent in the furtherance of affordable housing. So while our impact fees will go down by $100,000 with approval of this resolution, our housing trust fund pot of money will increase by $100,000, which will be of assistance for that next great affordable housing project.
One thing I'll point out, from the staff perspective, we've been pretty orthodox when it comes to our impact fees. We don't waive impact fees on various things over the years. And ultimately, there will need to be some kind of impact down the road on various things. Dan's absolutely correct. In our inclusionary housing ordinance and our housing element, this is one of the tools that puts it in the bag to be able to get this project across the line. And in my briefings with the council members, I was inaccurate in the idea that I thought that there was going to be the backfill. Inevitably, we're going to have to figure out how to make this out, because the mayor's absolutely correct. As we come up with our fee programs, they're predicated on a number of assumptions on various things. It's been easy over the years, but I can tell you, we need to get this project across the finish line. We just do. And I think inevitably we're going to have to figure out how to backfill this down the line. But inevitably just getting this project going. It is very tight. We do get a dollar benefit by doing this for the county just to get the thing going. And yes, we still we keep 100,000 in that goes back into the housing trust fund. It'll help us down the line.
Is this a make or break item for the project? If this isn't.
No,
approved tonight,
when we brought the gap funding item to you last year, and council authorized the lending of an additional 700,000 to the project from home program income and from the housing trust fund, 135,000 and 565,000 respectively. It was with the understanding with Domus that they would fill in the rest of the gap. And this is being done more from, not from the standpoint of, will the project move forward or not move forward? It's being done, being mindful of when there is a finished product, we want it to be as strong financially as we can construct it. And that's why we're also doing the next agenda item, assuming that the council approves this, so that there is that offset, so that at least it keeps the overall lift of what we presented to council back in 2018 at a similar dollar level, although again, impact fees frankly are more valuable to the city than housing trust fund fees in terms of the breadth of what they can be spent on. But it as John referenced, it has a multiplier effect in that you're getting that match from the county. So ultimately, Blue Mountain Terrace will be stronger at the end of the construction process by virtue of this action, and maybe a little more cushion relative to that 5% contingency.
Questions from council? From the audience? Open up for a motion.
I'll move this item. I move that city council takes the following action to receive the staff report, adopt the resolution 2019-10 approving reduction of city impact fees in the amount of $100,000 to assist in the development of Blue Mountain Terrace senior housing project.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? None. Passes unanimously. And that will tie right into the next agenda item.
Staff is asking that City Council consider adopting Resolution 2019-11, approving a reduction of funding in the amount of $100,000 with $465,000 to be loaned from the City of Winters Housing Trust Fund to assist in the development of Blue Mountain Terrace Senior Housing Project. As I mentioned in the earlier narrative, that authorization as exists now is for a loan of $565,000 from the Housing Trust Fund. Staff is recommending a reduction in the loan from the Housing Trust Fund in the amount of $100,000, so that the overall city financial support of the project essentially remains the same.
So we'll have more money in that account for funding towards future
With this change, staff projects, once all the in-lieu fees that have already been approved by council are collected, we would have a war chest of approximately $2 million as the local leverage for that next affordable housing project.
Okay. Questions? Clear? Questions? Comments from the public? Open it up for motion then.
All right, I'll move resolution 2019-11.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Okay, and we have one last agenda item, which are the minutes from the April 2nd council meeting. We have, I think, 3 council members who have some changes to the minutes. Councilmember Lauren?
Okay, I wanted to first thank Tracy for her hard work. You know, it's really complicated when there's so many conversations. So, thank you. Already submitted this in writing, but one of them is, says Councilmember Lawrence said it's difficult being part of the team and not being able to talk about issues pertaining to the city at her meeting with the developer on 2/11/19, and then I'm asking to strike the EDAC report hadn't been finished. The EDAC is setting the table to move this forward. And strike that and include, she said Jeff Roberts told her the EDAC report was setting the table for this development. She had expressed concern that the developer was shaping a report that hadn't been completed. And then later, the minutes say that Kate Laddick said there were public workshops. The correct is that there will be public workshops. It's not past tense. And then also, one of Kate's comments was that there was a confluence of several projects. The climate action plan, the EDAC report, and strategic planning workshops. So she had explained that. Also, Kate Laddish was one of the residents who supplied written comments. I got her written comments, but she wasn't in the list of people who submitted written comments. And just turn my notes. Thank you.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes, Mayor. This has to pertain to the senior commission we were discussing. And there's a page 9, page 5 at the top, page 9 at the bottom. In the middle of the page is a statement. Councilmember Anderson said no member should serve more than 2 consecutive terms. And what it should reflect what I said, I think a little more accurately when it said Councilmember Anderson questioned why no member should serve more than 2 consecutive terms.
Okay. Councilmember New?
My concerns, two of them were already taken care of. The only other thing I changed, which I've already given to the corrections to the minutes, was that said staff, that I thank staff for bringing up annexation. Actually, I thank the city manager for bringing up annexation. So Tracy has my other written comments.
Any other comments? Public? This all seemed fairly routine to me. No other comments from all who came up, or motions from the council?
I move we approve the amended and corrected minutes from the April 4th meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Second.
Motion passes unanimously.
As corrected.
As corrected.
Secret meeting.
Okay. Next up, we have the city manager's report.
Yeah, Tracy. City website really quick. Just a couple of items. One thing that is coming upon us rapidly that we heard about a meeting, but week from Saturday is Youth Day. Pancake breakfast, the parade. Now, I think it's the number one fundraiser for Youth Day, that race, and the fair ourselves.
I have to swim fast this year. Or later.
Put some boards in the dam.
These have put a fork in the glory hole for a few days.
Oh my goodness, that's right.
Good luck.
Postpone the.
Maybe that's what you do.
Things going too fast.
Maybe you take all the ducks up to the glory hole and
Yeah, just
dump it
toss
down.
them
It'll be like
Pretty
Survivor.
exciting. Put them in Dry Creek and then watch them come
We're gonna
around.
put you in charge of finding the first 3 this year instead of me, man.
I think you just put a squad down below the trestle bridge and whatever duck makes it, they should just get all the money. So, the last city council meeting, I really took to heart a lot of the comments that were made. And frankly, over the past number of years, trying to have a very open way that we do business has been an extremely high priority for me. Access, the information that we do, my Friday updates, the things that we do now on social media are very important. And I don't take that lightly. The atmosphere that we have at the city council meetings is of paramount importance. The idea of having a tough council meeting is the last thing that I ever want to happen. We have people come here from other cities that are absolutely blown away about how our council meetings are fun and open. And I've seen some instances that don't happen anywhere else. In a planning commission, having somebody who doesn't speak English get up and make a presentation in their support of something, I think transcends any community. This business about the North Area planning staff, I guess, in some ways I've sat back and tried to think, okay, how can I take some things to the next level? Because like I said, I've always prided myself in being open. Some of the things that some people are saying, not nice, and they're very accusatory, they're toxic, and to be put in that vein, it kind of points to, okay, what can I do? So something I added onto the website today. If you go into our departments, we've got a tab now. It says North Area Planning. There it is. The thing that's nice about having a website is that you can load data and documents into it. I'm sorry, I'm not as proficient in social media as a lot of people. It's super whiz bang at doing things, but the one thing that I do know how to do is link a document. And if you look at what we've put in there, I've just started developing this. But in it, I figured that anything that comes in, it'll give us an avenue for people to be able to go and get updates. As the information comes in, we can do that. Include information regarding our general plan, our housing element, some of the things regarding OPR and housing policy, general plan policy, things like the regional housing needs allocation. Tracy, Kristen, a little bit, please. If you look in there, I've put my my email, but even more importantly, I'm going to start something brand new. That every fourth Thursday, I plan on having right here in the council chambers, we'll do what I call Ask the City Manager. And you know what? Anybody can come in and ask any question they want about me, and I'll give them the answer. We can do it on our YouTube channel that we broadcast tonight.
We'll put it up on Facebook Live, and I'm gonna do that, so people can just type in questions. And quite frankly, I'm gonna do our best. There are some people, it's gonna be from 4 to 5:30. I can always have, guests come in and, to be able to get information out to people about things. I know the North Area planning effort certainly going to be a hot topic. I've been there. At today's meeting, it looked like all the people from previous meetings about 14 years ago, they got the band back together and they all showed back up. It was like old home. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we're going to try and really open some things up from today's meeting. The county's annexation policy and framework. And, I've tried to put as much information. I've had to put a caveat on some of it. That, it's a draft. The stuff's subject to change. But the thing that'll be nice is that the ability to push and let people know, hey, there's a change in this stuff. So anyway, taking these things very seriously. I don't know another city that necessarily puts out a Friday update like I do. It seems like everybody copied me all of a sudden because every executive seems to put out a Friday update on things. But certainly we're going to try and keep it open. The one thing that we've always, I think in the past number of years, we've prided ourselves in one key thing, is that we can be hard on issues and try and avoid the whole personal thing. We aren't necessarily going to agree on everything, but we certainly can make sure that we get the information out to people and that it's fair. So anyway, look for this. I'm going to make a point of keeping this stuff going. And after today's meeting, I had a chance to chat with a couple of folks about some ideas that they had on some things that we put in. I'll do it. Good ideas on some things. So anyway, look for this, and I will do our best.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a question or concern I'd like to bring up to them.
Sure.
I think it was on the last management staff report. I saw a note in there that I think we were getting ready to start issuing building permits for the Validus property, the Olive Grove project. Have we worked out anything with that developer? Do we have any kind of plan in place that they're going to address the flooding that they were causing? If not, can that somehow be tied to those permits so that we make sure that that gets done before they start building houses on it and making it worse?
Okay. From the staffing, I think they were inquiring about the permits, but understand that for phase one, there's a subdivision improvement agreement. All those improvements all need to be made. Both the city engineer, the developer's engineer, our public works inspector, everybody is on notice on that project. So there are 5 permits that can be issued, and it'll be limited to only that. But before those permits can be issued, they need to meet all the requirements of subdivision improvement agreement and the conditions of approval. The only way they're going to get those permits is if they've sufficed those. And I think everybody's well on notice about all the issues that are going on out there.
And to this point, they haven't met all those conditions, correct?
As of right now, I don't think so.
I don't see anything changed over there.
From our staff meeting, that's why we have a staff meeting. And part of it is kind of beating on the people who make sure that everything's kosher. And I can tell you that the building official is very much aware of the need to have everything in a line for us to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have one last comment to make for council members that the fire department has offered to let us all ride on the fire department's Buffalo fire truck for the youth day parade. So the council members who are interested, nice in the truck.
Yeah.
Have it all polished up and ready to go. So it seems like the council will be
Five for five.
in the parade. We're gonna ride Buffalo.
Could I ask, council members, that I'm hoping I'm not the only one that's been asked to be in the dunk tank.
You may be the only one who said yes.
Did you say yeah? Are you anybody else? Oh, I'm backing out now.
Once you say yes, that's it.
I don't know.
And
It's my anniversary. I don't
my
mind.
inside information says they were also pursuing Gene pretty hard.
I'll do it if Gene Ashdown does it.
You know what, they got me, but I told her, it better be $100 a ball.
All right, on that note, we'll adjourn the meeting at 8:48. Thank you.
Really, you guys all said no?
Nobody.
I don't feel hurt.
I do. You know, if my husband lines up
Jason,
with
thank you for
balls,
scanning
I'm gonna be.
This is a handout that, Eric.
I proved it in the paintball thing.
Yeah. Are they, that's my understanding, yeah.
That's like some church.
And,
I think
is on
I
those
heard that the
resolutions
paintball
passed,
was back.
you could sign them tonight, so you can get those in the, and so I just kind of threw everything in there and anticipated.
John, I
All
think
of
you're
it,
doing anything
yes,
with,
not so long.
Why did I get?
the website.
Let's see.
Tell somebody.
Are you, somebody can say you can't do anything right.
Yeah.
Yeah, fundraiser any day.
It's different.
I'm just gonna spend more time out of town.
Okay, thank you.
Nobody can find it.
We're gonna drag